Welcome to Somewhere in Vegas here on Spreaker.com. I am Mark the Q. I am your host. We have two very great interviews on this Rewind episode as we talk to two women that have transcended and broke the glass ceiling and actually have proven, women can do certain jobs that were only thought to become male. Coming up later on, we'll be talking to Bonnie Jo Laflin, who used to be the talent scout for the Los Angeles Lakers farm team, and she's now a really great reporter up in the Bay Area. Bonnie's done a really great job of doing that as well. But first, we're going to talk to a name that you may recognize, Paige Hemmis from Extreme Makeover Home Edition. She actually was a really staple of that program early on in the previous decade when ABC decided not to do it anymore. HGTV has actually picked it up, but as far as I know, Paige hasn't signed on to do any cameos, but I won't be surprised if next season that ends up being the case. So first up, we'll have Paige Hemmis. Then after the break, we will have our interview with Bonnie Jo Laflin.
Second, Paige, are you there?
I am. I'm so sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's okay, Paige. I understand that you're in Tennessee right now doing a project.
Yes. I'm actually at the interview location now, and we were really nervous. We were behind today, but we've caught up, so we're good.
Well, that leads me to one of the questions I think that actually my mom recommended I ask you, is that when you guys start building, is there any kind of prep time, as in did you guys lay the foundation a little bit earlier or get the actual plans for the house done before you guys start building?
We do. We have a couple of weeks, and when I say we, not us. We actually we roll up on the bus, and that's the first we see of the family, and first time we see the plans. But we have an advance team that goes in ahead of us, and we have to make sure that the county approves us, that all the neighbors approve that we're there, and that an architect can get started working on the plan of the house, and that the builder's on board to make sure that we can actually pull off this crazy thing that we do of building a house in a week.
Yeah, it is. It's been an interesting season so far, especially considering you got a lot of celebrities, hitting the set and being able to help you out. Was there any certain celebrity that you liked to work with this season, or was there somebody that you were really, really expecting to, somebody that you really wanted to be on set?
We had the first show that I did this season, although it won't play that way, the way ABC has them slated. But the first show back, I started working with Mary J. Blige, and she was on our first show. And I'm like, here's this big star, and I love her music. And I was a little starstruck at first. And then, you hang out with them, you're working side by side, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is my friend Mary. And we had so much fun together. I actually went to New York, and I got to see a little bit of what her organization does there, and that was just a huge treat to me. But everyone we've had on so far, we've had Ashley Tisdale. She was awesome. We had David Duchovny last week. This week we have Usher, which I'm so excited about. So we've had, so many great celebrities on, and we've got a few that we're keeping secret for the rest of the season, which I'm so excited about. For us, it's a treat. This is our 7th season, and we're changing it up. We've got this Get on the Bus tour, and for us, it's so exciting to do something a little bit different.
It's kind of interesting that the background that you come from. You were originally a wedding organizer, wedding planner.
Yes, I was. It feels like another life now, but I was actually, I had a real estate business, and I was doing weddings also. So I had a little bit of both going on. And then when I got this show, I kept the real estate business, but I had to give the weddings up because, the brides aren't very happy when you plan their wedding and then don't show up for the actual day. So I had to make sure that I got that taken care of. So I sold that business, and just, now, it's been 7 years now that we've been doing this. So it's pretty crazy, a little bit of a life change.
Although there were a couple weddings on the show, actually, too, so.
Yes, so that was perfect for me. I was like, yes, I love this. And they're like, there's no way you can pull off a wedding in a couple days. I'm like, oh, yes, we can. If we can build a house in a week, we can definitely do a wedding in 2 days.
Do you, were you always kind of handy? Were you always kind of a craftswoman?
I was. Even when I was little, I was always that type that was, very crafty. I was making things out of popsicle sticks, and it's not that much different. Now I'm just using 2x4s instead of popsicle sticks, so it's a little bit bigger. But, other than that, it's kind of that same thing. You have to have that kind of crafty mind. And I had doll houses when I was little, and my mom said it was so funny because I would kick all the dolls out. I would put the dolls in the hallway, and I would make furniture for the dollhouse, or I would rearrange it, or make little wallpaper for the dollhouse. So my mom's like, you love doll houses, dolls, not so much. So I was always kind of that tomboy who loved houses, and I was the type too that played with Tonka trucks. So I guess I was destined for construction.
And I mean, that kind of also in some of your side projects as well, considering you wrote a book about, home repair and all that, you also have your own line of tools, actually, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm working on tools. Right now I have work gear for women, so I have tool belts and gloves and boots. And, yes, I'm working on tools right now as we speak. But I think, it's so important for women in construction to have the proper things. When I first started, I had to buy boots that were way too big for me and gloves that were too big for my hands. And it's not safe. At the end of the day, you need stuff that fits, especially when you're working with power tools. And there just wasn't anything out there in the marketplace. So I've kind of made it my mission to take care of the women in my industry.
Yeah, and are you seeing a lot more women going into the construction business or coming into some of the crafts work?
I really am. I meet so many wonderful women out on the job site every single day. And two, I think, at the end of the day, the women are typically in charge of the household. They're in charge of what goes in the house and how it's decorated and if something is going to be fixed up or not. So I see so many women who are realizing that they can do this themselves and they just need a little bit of encouragement, which I'm always happy to give.
What was your reaction when you got the call from Extreme Makeover to say that they want you on the show?
Oh, well, I had done a show before that called Monster House, and that was a contestant show. So if you won their challenge, you won tools. And I did that, and we won the tools, and I was so excited because I had more tools to work on houses. And then they called me. They were casting for Extreme Makeover. And, it had never been on the air or anything. So I said, yeah, I'd love to come down and interview. What do you win? I thought it was another thing where you, win tools. And they're like, no, it's not exactly like that. And, I came in and interviewed with them, and they said that we're going to try to remodel a house in a week. And, here I had all these projects going on that had taken me about a year and a half and, at least 4 months to do a remodel. I'm like, okay, good luck. We'll see if we can actually pull that off. And, we did. And it was so amazing back then. We started, first show I was on, we added 500 square feet to a house. And I thought, oh, my gosh, that's huge. We'll never be able to do something like that again. Now we're, completely knocking down houses and building 5,000 square foot houses in a week. So we've come a long way. But it's still, I'm still surprised every single week that we can pull it off.
Yeah, it's amazing, and like I said, there's a lot of prep work that goes in there, but it's just amazing how many volunteers you get on these houses and how fast you guys get some of these houses on there, which I think leads me to my next question. What do you think was the toughest build that you've ever had to do on Extreme Makeover?
That is an easy one. It was in New Orleans before Katrina hit, and it was just, we found now that it's easier to tear down a house and build a new house rather than try to restore or remodel a house. And this was a house that was built, in the 1800s, and we wanted to restore it. And we had horrible weather. The ground there in New Orleans is, the water table is right below. So all of a sudden you'd be walking and you'd be, waist deep in mud. And we were really, really behind. And so we did not sleep. We stayed on set for 4 days in a row, and it was so hard. And but everyone came together, and spirits were low, but because the community stepped forward and really helped us, it turned out to be good. But it was tough getting there, let me tell you.
And kind of on a side note, what was probably the toughest room you ever had to design?
The toughest. You know, a lot of times I feel like, oh, did I bite off more than I can chew? But probably the toughest. You know, one of the rooms I did in season 4, so it had been a few years ago, I did a Pirates of the Caribbean room, and it was right when the movie came out, and Disney sent us a bunch of actual stuff from the movie, and they sent me the sail from one of the boats, and it was amazing, and I talked about it all week. I'm going to use this sail. Well, the sail came, and it's actually the sail from a huge sailboat, and it was huge, but I wanted to use it in its entirety, and it ended up being so difficult, and it was just this thick, you know, material that I could not use in the room. And I remember at the very last minute just having to ditch that and do something else. And, you know, in the middle of the night, I'm scrambling for materials. And, you know, the bottom line is, you know, the American public would have never known, but I was just so disappointed that we had worked so hard to try to pull something off, and we weren't able to do it. I mean, the room still ended up, it was a pretty cool room, but if you knew all the behind the scenes, you know, you'd have been crying with me.
Are we going to see any more like behind the scenes kind of footage coming out? I know we did that in past seasons. I haven't seen it in the past couple seasons.
Yeah, you know, we did. We used to have a show called How They Do That, and it would kind of show behind the scenes and talk about what happened when the regular cameras would go away. But we haven't done one since, and it's been about 4 years since we did that. We love that kind of stuff because we can really show what's going on. But, you know, so far, there's no plans to do it again.
What do you think is harder to do, a boys' room or a girls' room?
You know, I like them both. It's probably easier for me to do a girls' room because I kind of like live vicariously through these girls, you know. I'm like, oh, what would I have liked when I was little? And I try to make it come true. But it's just so fun doing both boys and girls.
And who do you think is the toughest, the hardest working person on set, do you think?
Hardest working person on set. Ooh, that's a tough one. You know, and you mentioned it before, the volunteers that we get. And we could not do our show without the volunteers because we tried in the beginning. You know, before we were on the air, I remember going door to door asking people, you know, please come out here and help us, and you know, please just help us paint. And yeah, they're the reason that we continue doing this, and the reason that, you know, we're still able to do what we do is because we have so many volunteers. Anywhere from 1,200 to 4,000 people come out on each build, and you know, there's only 65 of us that travel around. But if we didn't have these thousands of people that came out, we would not be able to do it. So those guys are definitely the hardest working on set.
Okay, and I think what was the question I was going to ask you? I was going to ask you, any funny stories? Is there any funny stories you can think of from the set?
Oh my gosh, we have a good time. Everyone is like a family, and we laugh a lot. And you know, the stuff we do behind the scenes is so much fun. Like last night, we had a costume party. And every single person, you know, whether you're the executive producer or big boss of the show, you know, down to the PAs and the volunteers, like people just got so into it, and we had so much fun. And I think that's what keeps our spirits up. You know, we're constantly doing stuff like that or playing jokes on one another and encouraging, you know, everyone to keep going because it's tough. It's a tough schedule to be able to pull off, and we all miss our families. We're all away from home, you know, for many months out of the year, and so I think you kind of need to rely on each other and having a good time as well as working.
And Ty seems very enthusiastic on set too.
Yes.
I mean, he is the character on the show, really.
He is.
And I mean, it must be a hoot being able to work with him.
It is. He's so much fun. I mean, he is. You know, he's wild and crazy, but then he's also got this really sensitive, serious side that, you know, he really cares about these families and wants to make sure that they're taken care of and that we do the best that we can for them. So it's nice because it's a nice balance, and I think we can all draw from that energy, especially when we're really tired.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he always wants to keep the spirits up. You know, he always has to go through the house and say, "Come on, people, let's get it done. We're going to get this done in 7 days." So he's a motivator of the thing too. And Paul's the hard worker. I think Paul, to tell you the truth, watching the episodes, Paul get so many different projects going, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's because you tell